Good. So today we're going to be talking about a couple of things, and I'm so happy to have you. I know we've done some of these before, but today I was wondering if we could open up by talking about what it is that you love. I mean, I think people would always love to hear a little bit about your background, number one. Number two, what is it that you're doing now? And number three, I think that the thing I would love to share with students is how is Ayurveda evolving in the West, and what do you see in terms of a place for them going forward? How is Ayurveda making room for the students to participate and to grow not only their own practice, but to grow and share Ayurveda themselves?
Wow, that's a big
topic. Should we start with your background?
Oh, my background. Okay, we can start with that. Yeah. So anyway, thank you for having me, and thanks to all of you for showing up and being willing to to listen and participate. I'd love to hear more from all of you too. My background in terms of Ayurveda started in, I guess, in about the early 90s, although I didn't really get trained clinically to practice Ayurveda until the early 2000s. But it started with a lot of people with a yoga practice and being exposed to books, Dr. Ladd's books, floating around yoga studios, in the early 90s, and hearing about this mythical Ayurveda Institute in Albuquerque, and even seeing Dr. Ladd give a lecture here and there. And it eventually evolved into a more of a formal education for me around 1999, 2000, 2001, with a group of teachers who eventually went on to become Kerala Ayurveda as a school. Dr. Jay Apte, Dr. Suhas Shirsagar, Dr. Ranade, Dr. Lele, and a number of other teachers were kind of grouped together to form this school that's not really there anymore. It's kind of evolved into something different. But, I was really grateful to get exposed to a lot of great teachers. And I lived in India for a year in 1989 and had my first exposure to Ayurveda there when I got sick with parasite. Being young and a little bit cocky, I was eating street food and enjoying the street food, because I think street food is like the ultimate expression of authentic cooking of any culture, but you kind of have to have the gut for it, and I guess I didn't, and I paid the price. But I ended up in an Ayurvedic doctor's clinic in a village, because I was in a very rural setting at that time, and I was given herbs. They read my pulse, and I was really fascinated by how they were managing me as a case. It was very different from anything I had ever experienced. And this is 1989, which was, feels like a long time ago. There wasn't a lot of, yoga, much less Ayurveda around in the community like you see now. So it was really like a first-time exposure for me. And I came back, and I was planning to become a Western medical doctor at that time, but I changed my direction because of that experience, and ended up going back to school to study Chinese medicine and acupuncture and Ayurvedic medicine, so more Eastern medicine systems, and which is really my love. And so, and Ayurveda has been predominantly what I've been focusing on for about the last 10 to 15 years. The acupuncture has taken a smaller. I don't even practice anymore because my license was in California, where I lived for 30 years, and now I live in the Boston area. I chose not to renew my license in Massachusetts. So I'm an Ayurveda guy, and I'll be straight up with you. I'm a very clinical person, and I really, really love working with people individually, and diagnostics, and coming up with case reports and treatment plans, and just really, that's my love. I mean, I'm not like some teachers are, more philosophers. I'm not, as I do love the spiritual aspects of Ayurveda, but that's not really who I am. So, to be authentic to myself, I'm really more like a medical Ayurvedic person than I am sort of the philosophical type. And that's just been true to me. And that's what I love. But there are a lot of different ways to practice this Ayurveda. And it doesn't have to be heavy clinical like me. It can be just guiding people through lifestyle. It can be more a softer, more wisdom-based approach. right? Where you can see the imbalances in people and guide them, appropriately. So, excuse me, that's sort of my background. Yeah, I've done yoga for a long time. I've been back to India. I lost count at about 25 times. I don't know how many times I've been there. I've taken almost 1,000 people there on tours. I do an annual tour every year. Yeah, I love being in India. I love everything about the culture and the people. I have many friends there, and they're like family for me. So it's I have teachers there. I have partners that help me with my tours, who are like travel agents, but they're like my brother and sisters. Like it's a very easy place to fall in love with people, and I did. So as I'm sure Laura knows. So yeah, that's sort of me. So in 2014 I founded the Sevanti Institute, and also Sevanti Adventures, which is more of the India tour wing of what we do. The Institute has about 14 instructors or faculty members, if you want to call them that, on our team, including Laura, who teaches 2 of our courses. She teaches our Ayurvedic nutrition course, our level 2, which is more advanced. I'll come back to the different levels in a moment. And she teaches also the Ayurvedic cooking course, and could teach probably half the courses on our level 2. It's just that we have so many amazing people that we really focus on people who have written books on their sort of subspecialties, and we want people who are at that level, at caliber, on our teaching team, so that when you do go through our programs, you've been exposed really to the best, really the best of the best, like Laura and Dr. Shirsagar, and I could name a lot of names. They're really quite brilliant. So yeah, I founded that, and we're just flowing a lot of students, and enjoying the transmission of wisdom to people. I think it's probably one of the most satisfying things I've ever done, was not only teach, but also help others to be in connection with good teachers like Laura, and kind of connect those dots and get people, hearts and minds connected to a deeper kind of advanced type of education too. So that's why Laura is so important to what we do.
So James, you're so kind and so generous. I'm curious, when you say that you love the clinical, it seems that you are also a great teacher. And then obviously to put together Sevanti with 14 people on faculty, that sounds like you also must be a good diplomat, a good uniter of people.
I'm a good director. Yeah, I like people, so I think when you like people, I think that's a key thing to Ayurveda, is that I think the most important question to ask yourself, if Ayurveda is the right path for you, is, do you really love people? And if you love people, and you like helping people, and you like understanding people, and if you can be, humbled that you are allowed into someone's world, and to hear their private stories, and to help them on that healing journey, then you'll love this work. I think you'll love it a lot. And I think it really comes down to being a nature person and a people person.
Beautiful. Tell me something. Do you ever regret it? I think your father was an allopathic doctor, so it's in the family.
He's still alive. He's 88. He's he was yeah, okay, I will brag. I'm very proud of my father. He was probably the most important ear, nose, and throat otolaryngologist in the country ever. I say that because he wrote all the books. They're called the Bailey books. So if you're not in that world, you'll never hear of him. But if you ever go into an otolaryngologist's office, and ear infection, tonsils, yours, your kids, some family member, and just say, "Do you know Dr. Bailey?" They'll probably drop their jaw and go, "Oh my God, he's like a god." Or, I studied all his books when I was in residency. So he's at that level. He wrote volumes of books on surgery, ear, nose, and throat surgery. So yeah, I definitely took on that family karma. That's probably why I'm more into the clinical side of things. I picked up that sort of dharma from him, but had to kind of redirect it in my own way, in a way that was true to me, being more of a naturopathic system, you know, really seeing that most health issues come from lifestyle and diet, you know, so that realm where Ayurveda is so brilliant, and that makes me feel good. And I feel like I'm following my path, even though I picked up that love of medicine from him. I can do it my own way.
Mhm.
And trust me, following his footsteps would have been horrible. So I would never have even tried.
He
So
set
I'm
the
really
bar high,
grateful.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, I would have, he was just so successful, I would have failed. I mean, I like to work hard, but not that hard. Like I, I like what I do, but you know, anyway, I think you get it.
Hmm.
He's quite good at what he does. So
Yeah, right. So you have a more Ayurvedic approach
yeah,
to your life and to
yeah,
your profession. Yes, sounds great.
rings more true for me. Yeah.
Wonderful. So what do you think when you think about Sevanti and what your hopes are for educating students? What do you see? What's your vision for what becomes of them or where they take Ayurveda?
I think that you need to take it into your community. And for that reason, I think Ayurveda needs to come to you. And that's something that is not, it's starting to happen. We're seeing more online training programs happen. Our school is almost 100%. It is actually 100% online now. And we started back in 2017, 2016, long before the pandemic, when online education was sort of unheard of. And NAMA would frown upon it, and they still kind of frown upon it. It's sort of second-class education to them, and I don't believe that's true. I think online education is a form of social justice because it brings the education to your living room. You don't have to spend, you know, for every dollar you spend on tuition with these brick and mortar schools, you're going to spend $2 or $3 on flights, accommodations,
True.
eating out.
So true.
It really adds up. If they say a program is $10,000, I'm on 30. Like it's just not, it's not equitable. And most people, particularly people of lower income or people on fixed incomes or people of color in communities that cannot afford to fly to Albuquerque 8 times a year to study with Dr. Lab, that is not a sustainable model for teaching something as important as Ayurveda, which is like the operating manual for being alive, basically, because it's a natural system. It's not about taking prescriptions and surgery. It's about knowing who you are and how to nourish your body, how to live a life that's true to your constitution and your nature, and so that you stay well. I mean, that should be in everybody's, you know, everyone should know this. So for me, I mean, to answer the question, what is the evolution or where is it going? I think it's going to move in that direction. And I think that's a good thing. I think that, you know, we're big advocates of online education. In fact, all of our courses are available through Zoom. And, you know, people may be tired of Zoom after the pandemic. I really get that. But it would be more tiresome to travel and to, you know, pay those Airbnb or hotel bills or wherever you're staying in those places where the schools are. That gets even more tiring. So I think this is a beautiful, liberating kind of technological gift that we have this ability. I'm in my living room. You're all in your living rooms, and we're all talking right now. And Ayurveda has to meet us in that space, in my opinion.
It's a really good point you make, because it means Ayurveda is for the elite, of the elite, by the elite, if otherwise, right? And, you know, it's so vata vitiating to do these courses. You've got to fly there, you've got to find the hotel. Where I did it, up in Milpitas, you know, up in the Silicon Valley area, at the end of a long day of internships or classes, then you've got to get home. And it's 10, you know, you've got an Airbnb 10, 12 miles away, but it takes you 2 hours to get there because the traffic's so crazy. And so you're not sleeping, it's vata vitiating as well as expensive. And to think about then covering the cost of your investment, right? At this point, then it's going to be the time it's going to take for you to build your practice, et cetera. So I
Yeah.
love what you're saying. It's important. It's an important part
Well,
of it.
another thing I wanted to share, I'm happy to talk about the program. Laura and I have talked about making it easy for any graduates of her AIN program to sort of slide into our level 2 program, just sort of bypassing the whole level 1 program. And so I just want you to know that option is there if you're interested. But after let me describe the school. We have a 3-tiered kind of program. Level 1 is the first 120 hours or so, 150 hours. And that's sort of what we call the foundation program. It's open to everybody and anybody. You don't need to register, do a big admissions process. It's just like a workshop, basically. And then when you complete that, you qualify for level 2, which is where we then have people do an admissions form and kind of apply, because that's the beginning of our professional programs. And the admissions are very simple. I don't want to intimidate anybody about that, but level 2 is what we call the advanced Ayurveda program, and that's where Laura teaches. And that's where so I teach level 1 programs, and we're going to try to get more people teaching level 1s, but we have a larger faculty for level 2. And I personally believe that after you study with one person for level 1, you should graduate and be exposed to lots of different teachers. And it's important to learn from lots of teachers, because learning from different teachers, you learn different teaching styles, you learn different ways of practicing Ayurveda. You learn, that ultimately what you really learn is that you can do this too, because you don't need to be like me or like Laura or like Dr. Suhas. If everyone's different and you have different styles, then you can fit in too, right? You're a part of this, community of people who are educating others. So that's what level 2. Level 2 is a longer program. It's 17 months. It's 1 3-day course a month. So they're sort of the subspecialties of Ayurveda, like pulse reading, pathophysiology, lifestyle, herbology. We have great teachers in all these programs. And then when you finish that, level 3 is the clinical supervision program. And we have an online clinic called the Sevanti online clinic. And you become a clinic intern, and you're then ready to take on clients, do intakes. And then before you give advice or diagnostics to any client, you do the intake. And then you sign up for a supervision session with me, and then we go over the case. And I will change things if I need to, little changes here and there. Then you'll feel better about it. Then you go back to the client and you give them the diagnostics and tell them what lifestyle, nutritional, herbal, cleansing type systems are best for them, because it's very customized. So that's our level 3 program, and that's a 12-month program, and then you're done. And then what I'm really most excited about is once you're done, it's just beginning. Because most schools, when you graduate, like the Ayurveda Institute, Kripalu, Mount Madonna, when you're done, you're done. They sort of let you go and goodbye. You're off to practice on your own, all by yourself, not knowing who to ask if you don't know how to handle a situation. There's no mentorships or anything like that. So there's no postdoc or post-clinical type of situation. So we're creating a post-grad opportunity for you to actually join us in our online clinic to practice. You have to go through a year of mentorship first, but even in the mentorship year, you're still practicing and you're getting paid, right, by your clients. So you're paid, but you're also coming in for mentorship kind of group for like once a month to kind of run questions by each other. And you can ask questions of me and other supervisors anytime you want. It's an open community. So if you have a question about a condition that somebody has, or what kind of herbs would be best for a certain person, because that's complicated, you need to run that by people who've been doing this for a long time. And you grow from having that community around you. So we feel like once you graduate, that's like getting your black belt in karate. They say that when you get your black belt, you're just starting, right? That's not the end of the journey, it's the beginning. So we want to keep people on board, and we want to keep you happy. We also want to train you how to teach if you want to do that. So if you want to actually teach our level 1 programs, we can train you how to do that so you can make more money. And I think that having diverse income streams is a really important way to not only increase your revenue, like needs to come back to you, right? So some revenue to you. And then also it exercises different parts of who you are. There's the teaching James, there's the clinical James, and that way I don't get, burned out. I don't get bored. I love that I get to exercise these different parts of who I am, and it never gets tiring. Because when I get a little tired of seeing clients, I go and teach for a few days, right? And I'm like, oh, that was fun. I need to go back and see clients, So it's nice to have that kind of different outlets for what we love, and to have them reward us in that way. So that's the program.
Yeah, it's a great program, and again, to emphasize what a great faculty you've gathered. I think is Ayurveda Living the one that's coming up this weekend? Is that the one that Claire is teaching?
Yeah, May. So let me just make a note that our next level 2 program is starting on May 20th. And I know that's not far away. It's only 10 days. But if you're interested in joining our level 2 program, we can give you immediate credits for our level 1 program, and you can just sort of horizontally slide right in and join the program. And I know that May 20 is coming fast, and if that's too quick or you have things already scheduled for that weekend, it's okay, because all of our courses are recorded and you can watch any course that you miss. And so if you miss the one coming up with Claire on May 20th, it's okay. You can watch it a few weeks later and kind of stay caught up. And then the next course will be in the middle of June.
June, right.
Yeah. So we'd love to have you. We have a few spaces.
Many of them do have plans that weekend in May, because we have at least our 3-hour AIN class, but they could also, drop out for 3 hours, come to our finish up. It's our last weekend of AIN.
Well, no, do your AIN and enjoy, finish that. You need to complete that. That's the last weekend, right?
It is the last weekend, yeah.
Yeah, so that karma needs to be complete, right? You can't leave that half complete. So do that, and we'll get you the recordings for the course on that same weekend with us, and then you'll be right on track to continue on. Or if you think you need June, take June as a break because you're a little need some space, you can do that too. It's fine. We've got all the recordings set up, and then you can join us live whenever you're ready.
Brilliant. So great. Gracious of you. Thank you. What I'm wondering, what would be the best way if a student did want to go from AIN into your advanced Ayurveda program? I wonder what we feel they might be missing. They might be missing basic teachings on shrotas. They might be missing basics on herbs. I'm not sure.
All of that's in our level 2 program.
Okay, so they're good. They can slide right in.
Dr. Suhat does the shrotas, the KP Khalsa does the herbs.
Oh, good.
KP Khalsa, by the way, formulated yogi teas, and he's an Ayurvedic doctor. So, and he wrote the book called The Way of Ayurvedic Herbs. So you're well,
guy.
Yeah, you're well covered. Don't worry.
And Dr. Suhas does the shrotas?
Dr. Suhas does 2 courses: pathophysiology, where he goes over the anatomy again as a review, like all the different shrotas, and then also talks about the way imbalances occur within the tissues and the shrotas.
Great. Okay, great. That's perfect guy for that course. Okay, wonderful.
Yeah. There's a women's health course. There's an Ayurvedic aromatherapy course with David Crow.
I love David Crow's teacher. He's a great
medical
teacher.
Jyotish course, which is really awesome.
And who teaches that?
Simon.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. And who teaches the women's course? I'm forgetting. Is that Claudia?
It used to be Claudia Welsh. It's now Dr. Manisha Shirsagar, Dr. Suhas's wife.
Perfect. How perfect. Both are perfect.
Then we have Dr. Margot Bachman teaching one course on prenatal and postpartum Ayurveda.
That's so great. I was with, they had to pipe her in from Nepal, but Dr. Srita Shrestha taught a Monday post-conference class on women's health at the NAMA conference 2 weeks ago. And I had tears welling up. It was so moving to see how much love is given to the mother as the sort of vessel, really, of this next life. And just, gosh, Ayurveda and women's health is so moving. So beautiful. Thank you for being such a dedicated practitioner. And even though I hear you when you say you love the clinical side of things and you're not so much the philosophical or spiritual side of things, it does feel like it really comes from your heart. Every time I listen to you, I just feel like you are so grounded in the heart, James. I appreciate that so much about you.
Feel that way about you too. Thank you.
So, what do you think in terms of? I hear that Sevanti's seeking to offer places for students and graduates, but what do you think about Ayurveda and how it's evolving in the West? What do you think is the need? What do you think is the creative outcome?
I really, like I said earlier, I really think it needs to move beyond this expensive, elitist sort of path where, if you can afford $3,000, $4,000 a week for Panchakarma, then you're getting the real Ayurveda. I really don't think that's the way it needs to evolve here. In India, it doesn't cost that much to get a Panchakarma. So we're really pricing people out. The schools are pricing people out. So I think it needs to be made more accessible to more people of more diversity and lower income. And one way to do that is to teach it online. All those costs and overhead and infrastructure is all gone, you know. And another way is to increase the amount of counseling type of practices versus the doctor level of practices, which I think Nama is trying to do by recognizing that. Most Ayurvedic doctors who went to school for 8-9 years in India to become an Ayurvedic doctor, they come here and they spend 85% of their time counseling anyway.
Right.
They're not doing Panchakarma all day long because there aren't enough people who can afford to have me all day long, right? That's just what Panchakarma is. I would have when I did do Panchakarma, I would see 2 clients a day, my morning client and my afternoon client. And so if you have a clinic, which you need to do that, those 2 people will have to spend a lot of money to cover my overhead, whereas if I counseled 10 people a day, 8 people a day, 6 people a day, it doesn't need to cost that much. So with counseling, you don't need treatment tables. I mean, it's nice if you can get a Shirodhara and get the massages and the Abhyanga. I do like that. But I think 90% of Ayurveda needs to be counseling, really looking at people's lifestyles, looking at their diets, looking at what they can do to change a few things that can really change the path of their health. And you don't need to get a Shirodhara to do that. That's what I feel, anyway.
Right. Well, I always think about as soil, like, is our soil strong? Is it going to nourish good growth? Right.
Yeah.
The idea that if your diet is right, there's no need for medicine. But if your diet's wrong, medicines have no use. It's that counseling is not just basic, it's essential. Right?
Essential.
Yeah, it's essential. I think that's really well said, that so many people are, whatever level of their degree of study, even at the highest level, they're still working with Dr. J. Rajan. You'll see him, when we did our internships, you'll see him, you sit in while he's got clients, and to every single client, he's saying the same basic things. This is how you need to eat, right? This is what time you need to eat. This is this. And then at the very end, there's the tweaks. But those basics are so essential. Yeah, that's beautiful. So we need more community. We need more Ayurveda in the community at all levels of accessibility and availability.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it needs to be made affordable too.
Needs to be affordable. The AAA, affordability, accessibility, availability. Okay.
Yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I want to see if people have questions. Susan has a question. And Susan, I'd love it if you want to just unmute and go ahead and ask it. And then if anyone else has a question, James has been doing this for a long time. As you heard, in 1989, he was in a year living in India. Where were you living, by the way, while they think up their questions?
Well, my first wife is Shiva Ray. She's a well-known yoga teacher. She was studying in Delhi, and I was not studying in Delhi, so I was free to go all over. So I would go out to an area for a few weeks and come home for a week, and then try another area and go back for a week. I was all over.
Yeah, nice. Beautiful. Beautiful. So if anyone has any questions, Susan, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yes, hello. Hi, James.
Hello.
Hi, Susan.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone I know and everyone I don't know. Yeah, I guess my question, I mean, I feel like Laura's course has been like huge, like a big commitment in time. So I don't know if I'm ready to jump into anything right now, but I mean, I would love to in the future. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure about that. But the question is, if we did go into level two, would we have access to level one? Because I would always be thinking, well, I
Yes,
miss something. So
absolutely.
we could watch the recordings and
Yes, absolutely. So once you register with our school, you're giving an account on the website, and then in your account on the website, you have a what's called a My Video membership, and so you'll see all. What we'll do is we'll put all of the level one videos in there, which there are only 4, but you'll have all 4 of them in there because there are 4 modules in level one. And then in level 2, you'll get the video recording for each course as we go, month by month. Because we don't give
okay.
out all 17 course videos at first, because someone could sign up for it, watch them all, and then you know how people
Yeah.
are. I've had people try that.
Mhm.
And
And then they,
overwhelming, and then they don't really
Mhm.
participate.
yeah, and
The
then
other,
yeah, exactly. Sure, go ahead.
yeah, the other question, James, would be how many hours is within the 3-day training per month?
Mhm.
Right, good question. So level 2 is 1 3-day course, like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday per month. It's almost always in the middle of the month, like the 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, around there. And the courses are from 9 to 5 with that's central, 9
Central
to 5
time.
central, with a hour and a half lunch break from 12 to 1:30 central.
And 2 15-minute breaks in between. So
That's right.
go 9 to 5 minus 2 hours.
Yeah.
6 hours a day, I think.
Yep, that's right. Mhm.
6 hours. Okay, great. Yeah, thank you.
And there's no homework in between courses. So, when you finish the course on Sunday night, there's not a whole lot you need to do for the next month.
Unless it's my course, because I'm going to tell you that. Try
Right.
mixing these different tastes at home. Anyway,
That's true.
it's
But
fun things. It's things that you would want to do anyway to integrate
that's
into
right.
lifestyle. Yeah.
But we do,
Well,
there's a recommended reading, so you might want to grab a book and then start reviewing it for the course next month. But there's no like intensive day-to-day kind of effort. It's more just the length of the course is long, and those 3 days are intensive. So we found with that adult education that narrowing it and intensifying it was the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Versus like every Tuesday and Thursday night and every
Mhm.
Wednesday morning, like, oh my gosh, it's
Mm-hmm.
like every week, every other day, it's something. It's hitting me all the time. You know. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, James, I have one more question. It just went out the crown. Oh no, I do remember. So what if you have questions in between? Say you do watch a model, or you're there for 3 days, and you have burning questions a week later as you're rereading or trying to integrate.
Right. Well, during the course, you can turn on the mic and ask questions anytime. And we require cameras on at all time. Just wanted to warn you about that. So we don't like teaching to people's names, faces. Unless you need, someone comes in the room, you can turn it off for a minute, child or something, or an interruption. But in between courses, if you have questions, what we encourage people to do is you're going to be in a community with about 20, 25 people. And you're going to be given either a WhatsApp thread or a Slack account. We're still working on that. We've been doing WhatsApp before. So anytime you have a question, I always say to please reach out to students first and see if they can answer it. And if some will. I mean, there's always someone who knows something about something. You know something they don't know too. But if you don't feel satisfied with that answer, you can address the faculty member. Their emails are on our website, and they'll probably know who you are if you do it within a few weeks of the course. And just say, hey, I was in your last course, and then ask the question, and they're happy to answer it.
Mm-hmm. And that just happened yesterday. I got an email from Anna Louise.
Nice. Yeah.
And that's to mention that there is a quiz at the end, right? You have a couple of weeks. There's an online quiz after each weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And fair quizzes, right? You actually, your instructions to us when we wrote the quiz was to be fair and to, make it something
Very
that people
fair.
can pass, right? But
Everybody
she had a question about what did I mean by the certain question in the quiz. So even then, and I didn't give her the answer, but helped her understand the question.
And
And
that's
this is Yeah,
That's
it's
very
like
Anna
weeks and
Louise,
weeks
though.
later. Yeah.
She does that all the time. Sorry.
Yeah, and but over the weekend of teaching, I had people writing to me and stuff. So just to say that I feel like you do make people very available to one another.
Yeah.
It's a great student body as well. I have to say, I really love the Sevanti students.
Oh, good. Good. Thanks. And if
Thanks for
anybody has
those.
any questions after
Yes.
we hang up here, you can email me at jamesb@sevantiinstitute.com.
James B at Sevanti Inst. I'm going to write that in.
Yeah, Sevanti institute.com.
Okay, James.
And if you think you might want to sign up, please email me, immediately, and I'll help you with registration, which is very simple.
Mhm. So all the weekends are recorded and people can always watch them later.
Always, yeah.
Um,
We don't keep attendance. Don't worry about having to tell someone if you're missing, a section whole weekend. It's your education. I would encourage you to go to as many of the live courses as possible, right? Because you can ask questions and participate, hear other people. But if you miss it, it's okay. Just
mhm.
watch the recording and take the exam, and you get credit for the course.
Anyone else have a
James,
question?
I have one more question, please. So with NAMA, what will you be accredited to do after the course? And would that be after level 2 or after level 3? How does
That
that
would
work?
that would be after level 3. It would be the equivalent of their Ayurveda health counselor certification. We call it Ayurveda wellness counselor only because we want to distinguish our certificate, the letters from NAMA certification, but it's the same thing.
It's and that's what we used to call it too. That's what Carolee used to call it, AWC.
Yeah.
Anyone else have a question? It doesn't have to be about Sevanti. Maybe a question about James, question about
Anything.
Ayurveda.
Are you going to India this? Oh, we're going to see each other in Kerala.
By the way, those of you coming to India, I know Kim is going to be there with us. Who else is going to be there? Paula, are you coming to India with us? We're going to get to see James. I think we're there for 5 days and then you come. Something like that.
There's like a 2 or 3 day overlap.
I'm so looking forward to that. Are we good? Is everything going to be good? I just heard somebody said to me last night, oh, I'm afraid for you going to India in the autumn because of COVID. There's supposedly going to be a surge. I'd love your thoughts.
There might be. They're saying the same thing, somewhere between October but any cooler months, that's where you start to see cases go up. I'm just hoping that October will be mild, not too bad.
Right.
I think COVID's going to start mirroring more like the flu type seasons. It's going to be more of a winter thing.
Well, and over at Somotherm, they're really reassuring. It's a hospital, even though it looks like a beautiful resort. It's a hospital, and they'll take good care of us once we land. So we're going to be in really, really good hands. And I'm so excited that we get to see James there. James is bringing a group as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody's curious about Sevanti and first wants to meet James in person, come to India.
Go to India with Laura. Belen, is that right?
I have a question.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to make things happen to go to India, so hopefully I'll meet you there, James and Laura in person. But my question is more because I've seen some practitioners or having the title of board practitioner. I'm just curious about that because I've never heard that in the Ayurveda world. How does one? I didn't even know there was like a board. Is there a board exam or what or is that just somebody that I just kind of stumbled upon and that's not even a thing? I don't know.
I don't think it's a thing. Do you know that, Laura? I've never heard.
NAMA's trying to make that a thing. So
yeah,
it's one thing that they were talking about, some developments that have happened over the past couple of years. Because this is the first time they had a NAMA conference in 3 years, there was a lot to present. And a lot of what they were presenting is their efforts to make Ayurveda a licensed health practice in states around the country. And in order to do that, they need to grow accredited schools. They need a whole portfolio of accredited schools. They need a whole portfolio of accredited practitioners. Then they get to a place where legislatures at the national level and the state level will start to take it all more seriously. There's still a ways to go, but NAMA is now offering exams you can sit at the AHC level, or the AWC level, and the AHP or the AP level. So at the two different levels, they're offering exams that you can sit. Whether or not the school that you attend is accredited by NAMA, and to be accredited by an accredited school by NAMA, you have to have so many different pieces that you're offering. What we're working on for the AIN is to cover the PACE or the CEU credits, so that if you're a yoga teacher or an Ayurvedic practitioner, this could cover those CEUs that you need to keep up with. And so, yeah, you're going to start to see that if you've sat for the NAMA exams, I think they're calling it a board certified HC or AP. I have to get the exact lingo on that, but it's a good question, and it's an emerging area. So I think you're going to find, Balin, that a lot of people don't know the answers to that, but NAMA is trying to get the word out.
Okay, and so my question, kind of to follow up that, I guess, is if we continue our education, like going through the institute, does that do we become members of NAMA because it's the same, or how does that work?
Well, you would apply for certification from NAMA at the Ayurveda Health Counselor level, and then you would be recognized by NAMA.
Yeah.
So NAMA is what you would call a trade association, right? So there's no licensure for the practice of Ayurveda in the United States. So NAMA is sort of like the professional trade association that oversees the standards for the practice and the guidelines for education, things like that. And then they recognize the practice. But there are other trade associations. They're not the only one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're like the AMA, the American Medical Association.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you have to become a member if you want to become a member of NAMA, and you pay your annual dues for that. And if you wanted to be so-called board certified, then you would sit for their exam. And it doesn't matter what school you go to, you still will have to sit for those exams. Yeah. Does that make sense? It's not like the Yoga Alliance where you can say, well, I went to this school and they're accredited, so now I'm a Yoga Alliance 200 or 300, whatever level. It's not the same. This one where you have to sign up to become a member, you have to pay an annual dues, and you have to sit for the exam to get their official accreditation. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But being licensed is a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
I just want to say to all of you that licensure for Ayurveda in the United States is not a given, but it also doesn't mean that it doesn't have value if it's not. Nutrition is not a licensed practice in the United States, but everybody knows the value of nutrition, right? And there are many other types of, coaching type of practices that are not licensed. Most licensed medicines are they're all licensed by state governments, not by federal. And so they're licensed if there's perceived to be a need to protect the people or the public from malpractice, right? It's not about creating an organization for the practitioner. It's really an organization that oversees and protects you, the consumer. And that's an important thing, right? But NAMA is more of a practitioner organization and a school organization. They're not a consumer protection organization. So their values and their goals and their vision is really more about looking out for the practitioner and for the schools. So that's very different. In California, the acupuncture board that I had my license with fell into the Department of Consumer Affairs. Right? Consumer affairs, not the Department of Great Doctors, right? Not the Department of we got you doctors, we protect your back. No, they look out for the people. So, and the reason they do that is because medicine can hurt people. Some medicines, right? You can have side effects. But in Ayurveda, what they're finding is that there are so few side effects from our medicine. The risk to people is so extremely low that there may not be good cause to spend those millions of dollars every year at a state budget to provide a board for licensing Ayurveda. Acupuncture, yes, because they're putting that needle into you. You know, someone takes a needle this long and says, I'm going to stick it in your body. You better know what you're doing, and you better be licensed, and your school better, you know, it's a serious deal. So I don't know about I'm not sure what will happen in the future in terms of licensure, but for now, you know, do what you love, and if they get licensure, you'll get grandfathered in. And if you don't, it's fine. We know what we're doing. We know who we are, and we help a lot of people. That's all that matters. But
Yeah,
get a good education. Get a good education.
that's what I was going to say. We're still at the level where you got your education is what people are looking for. Anybody in the know would know, okay, you had James or Suhas or KP Khalsa, you know, that these were your teachers, and that therefore you're well educated. That's what people are really looking for still.
And when you're looking at schools, so whether it's Sevanti Institute or not, you should interview them, right? They're not interviewing you. And there's I say there's two important questions you should ask any school to see if it's really got itself together. One is, do they have a clinical program? Because not all Ayurveda schools have clinical programs, or sometimes they're very weak. Now they're starting to get that organized because of NAMA's requirements for clinical hours. But there are still a lot of schools that their clinical programs are quite undeveloped. And then the second question is, what happens to me after I graduate? Do you just leave me alone and I go off to my life and I don't have anyone to talk to or communicate? If they leave you unsupported after you graduate, I think that's not really a school that's looking out for you. I think they're looking out for their dollar, the bottom line, so to speak. So anyway, just something to think about.
That's true. It's one thing I hear from graduates. I won't name schools, but they come to AIN already, you know, at the AP level, but they didn't have the counseling skills, or they didn't have the clinical, or they did have it a little bit, but they still didn't feel like they know what they're doing. So they really don't feel confident now working independently. Yeah. So that's an important part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I have another question, and this could be the last question unless somebody else has one more, but I'd like to ask, when you imagine you at 100 years old, looking back on your life, and you think about your contributions to Ayurveda, what will you hope to feel your legacy to be?
Oh, wow. I think that I would feel fulfilled if right now, if I'd answered this question 20 years ago, it might have been different. I think I was more focused on healing other people because I was starting my practice and wanted to work with lots of people. And you know, when you're 15 years into 20 years into a practice, and you have like 25-30,000 patient visits under your belt, it's like that karma becomes complete, right? Like my clinical practice is actually slowing down quite a lot. I see only like 4 or 5 people a month, and only when they approach me. I don't market it. I don't let anybody know. So I'm spending more of my time helping people to get educated so they can help people. So that to me feels like where I want to spend the next 10 years of my life before I retire, is really building up an organization that helps other people to heal and to educate other people. And that will make me feel like I've done something.
That's beautiful. That's the idea of what are we going to do? What's the idea? We're going to teach a man to fish. Yeah. And you feed him for life.
Exactly.
You feed him for life, and you feed many, many, many for.
Yeah, that's why I really believe in the counselor level of practice. I'm an Ayurvedic doctor, and if I want to I could do Panchakarma all day long if I want to. But I did that for 5 years, and it was hard, and it was, you know, it was messy. It was, you know, and the problem was you can heal people, but then they come back 3 months later with the same problems. And so what I found with counseling is if you can really educate somebody to take control of their own life, they're more likely to make healthier choices in the future. And then they're not dependent on me. I would discourage anyone from being dependent on me. Right? This is about you knowing you and knowing what you need to take care of yourself. That self-knowledge is the most important virtue of all. And we can't make proper decisions if we don't know ourselves that well. So for me, that's fundamental to this type of practice. And if I can teach people indirectly, you know, you can point the horse to water, all that, but you know, those kind of skills of compliance are what we teach in the level 3 program. Because you can know a lot about a person, you can know what they need, but to get them to actually act on it, that's a whole nother skill set. So that's why we have the whole level 3 program, because really working with people takes skill.
Sure does. And I think self-knowledge is a life practice. I just feel like we're constantly learning about how this instrumentation works, how to nourish it best, given different circumstances, right? Yeah, it's life. It's a life practice.
Well, you have my email, so reach out if you have any questions about the program. We can make it work for you to hop on sooner. The next level 2 won't be until January of 2024.
Right.
So this is sort of a window. And I'm sorry for you to be hearing about this 2 weeks before it starts. But like I said, you don't have to participate in the May program. You can get you registered and you can come in June or July.
Yeah.
It's completely fine.
Right.
But
I have a quick question. And so how long does it take to go through the whole program? If you're starting with level 2, what is the length of the program?
17 months for level 2 and 1 year for level 3.
Okay. Over 17 months. Thank you. Thank you for everything. It's been really enlightening. I appreciate everything that you shared.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
It's been really wonderful to be with you all this morning. Big thank you to James.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Everyone be well. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, take care.